Hello and welcome everyone, and welcome to Denise. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Why, thank you, my dear. It's so nice to connect with you as always. And I've heard you've got some juicy questions from the community for me.
I've got some amazing questions from my community, so I can't wait to ask those. But I wanted to start off by sharing how we came to get to know each other. And we met in B School actually back in 2012. So quite a while ago now, and I was one of the lucky people who got to work with you one-on-one when you were still doing coaching, and I still remember that you used your own pricing increasing formula in the way that you did that, and you made the announcement, I'm going to put up my rates, and they're going up from $330 to $550. If you'd like to book in, you can do it before this date. So I was like, sign me up. I booked in for a session straight away, which was amazing, of course. And then I also was in, I think it was the second round of your money boot camp that you ran that year. And I remember, I think you might have had like around 40 people, let's say, who joined up that round, which I thought, we all thought that was like crazy successful. So I really feel like I've seen such an amazing progression on what you've been through over the years in your business.
Absolutely. And of course, you were my personal kinesiologist for a long time as well.
Yes.
I've had many sessions with you, and, all the people in the community listening, Kerry has just really been behind the scenes for a lot of that too, because she really helped me. I'm always working on my money blocks. I'm always working on my personal blocks and resistance and procrastination, all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's an important thing to know, that I'm sure questions will come up where people go, oh, what do you know that we don't? Nothing. I'm still working on my stuff. I'm still working on myself all the time. And actually, that's what it takes.
Absolutely. And that really leads me into the first question I wanted to ask, which was like, at that time, back in 2012, you'd have what probably a lot of people would have termed and seen as a successful business, and busy with clients, doing your passive income product. But then you obviously had like a vision of something much bigger, because you then went on to create much more success, year on year, continuing to grow your business. So that's really what I wanted to understand is like, how do you go from something that's sort of like it's okay or it's good? Because I see so many people who get stuck at this. What they've got is okay, but how do you kind of break through to like your next level of what is great for you at that time?
Yeah, I've definitely been working on that my whole career in business, because at each stage it kind of hits me again. Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to make money from it being easy? Am I allowed to make money from doing something I love? Am I allowed to make money from helping people? Am I allowed to make money when my family might not be making money? Am I allowed to make money when people have to do jobs they don't like to make money? All of those questions have come up for me again and again at each stage of my business. And here's what I want everybody to hear. That came up my first month of full-time business when I made $225. I was like, am I allowed to make $225? My mum would have to work 10 hours to make that. That doesn't seem fair. And that kept on coming up, the same thing. And then when I hit $1 million in business, you think, oh, all your problems go away because you make $1 million. It's like, oh my God, am I allowed to? The exact same feeling. So the blocks stay with you, the numbers change, but I would say your blocks stay with you throughout your whole business journey. And you just deal with it. You learn, you get tools on how to deal with it. Back when I was starting, because I didn't have any community around me, I didn't have any coaches, I didn't know a lot of the techniques that I know now, that did derail me. My first launch, where I maybe even one of those ones where there was 40 people in it, and I was so blocked by that success, honestly. For the next 6 weeks after I had my first decent sized launch, I remember I sat on the couch and I played Candy Crush for like 6 weeks. I couldn't face doing anything, because I was like, this is a fluke, I'll never make this again. I had to work so hard for it. How am I going to sustain that kind of level of success? All that kind of stuff. Nowadays, I still have the same feeling, but it's seconds, minutes, maybe a couple of hours, and then I'm out of it.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the only thing that changes.
So it kind of gets quicker. And do you find for you, like, you know, we talk about back then or even, you know, in the years since, is it that you have like a really clear vision of that next phase, or do you just kind of keep on just taking step by step by step?
A bit of both. So I'll admit I have always wanted to be a millionaire my whole life. So when I started in business, for me it was a given. I was like, well, that's what I'm aiming for. It's going to happen sometime in the future. So I had that kind of one eye on the future of this is going to happen, and one eye on, and I have to get through this next stage. And I think that's what's been key, because some people go, I want to be a millionaire, and they don't realize that there's the next step in front of them. So they feel terrible. They're like, why aren't I a millionaire? I am a loser. Or things will happen and you go, this is a sign from the universe. I'm not meant to be successful. Instead of seeing it as that path to get there. And I think that's sorry about my cold, everybody. I've got a bit of a cold. That was the difference, I think. I see people give up too early because they go, oh my God, I got a refund. Well, that's it. There's my dream gone. Like, I'm not meant to be successful. Instead of, I was always like, this is a rite of passage. This is so exciting. I can't believe I've got this next step. Oh my God, someone refunded. That's brilliant. I didn't die. Oh my God, I got a first 1-star review on Amazon. I didn't die. That's the next part of the process. And I saw all of those things as an apprenticeship.
Right.
And there are different levels of apprenticeship, right? My little brother is a plumbing apprentice. Each year, he earns a little bit more each year, but he's an apprentice for 4 years. And a lot of people don't realize that business is the same way. You're an apprentice, and you go through an apprenticeship. That doesn't mean you don't make any money while you're on your apprenticeship, but it just means you have to go through certain rites of passage, and you have to learn how to do certain things. And each time you will get stronger and clearer, and that's how you get to the big money.
I think that's so true. It's just acknowledging, like you said, there's going to be different stages, and each step along the way, you're building your resilience, and you're, you know, really developing that ability to back yourself and to have that positive self-talk, whatever it is that happens, rather than falling into a heap.
Resilience is the key word there, totally, Kerry, because I've heard from people who have very fast success, and it's like they can't hold on to it, and a lot of times they sabotage it because they haven't had the time to build up the resilience, and that's super, super important.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I see that same thing. So the next question I want to ask is how to manage your mindset when you've got limitations on your time. So that's like doing what's right for you when you've got constraints such as kids or illness or energy, and without feeling like you're guaranteed to find it hard financially because of that. And it's such a great question to ask you, because you've, you know, achieved all this success in the time since you've had kids. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, the biggest thing that having kids taught me is that you can't procrastinate as much as you used to. And I still do. I still have resistance, but you have less time to do stuff. Where people get stuck is that they still feel like they have to do everything themselves, even with those restrictions in place. So, and we've got people in, say, my Money Bootcamp who have got chronic illnesses, who have lots of kids, who have, you know, lots of challenges, maybe unsupportive family members or unsupportive partners. And the key is you have to be okay with making it as easy as possible for you, which might mean asking for help from other people. It might mean letting things go a little bit in the short term. It might mean hiring people to help you. It might mean just focusing on giving yourself permission to focus purely on the money-producing activities and letting everything else go. Some people I hear at the start of their business, they're like, okay, I've got to write my book, I've got to create my first program, I've got to build my list, and they're doing all of these things, and it's like, okay, the book is a long-term thing, it's not a big money maker. Building your first program is great, but you don't have a list, and you don't know what your people want because you don't have any clients. So go get a client. Go get your first client, see if you like it, get that money in the door. So I think that's what you have to focus on. You have to be kind of brutal with your own time and go, what's going to make the money? What's going to bring in the money right now? And let everything else go.
Yeah.
And if you've got the funds, hire. get a cleaner to come and help you in your house, or just let the house get dirty in the short term. Ask your family to help mind your kids. Just do whatever you can. And there's some people listening going, but I don't still have any of that. Well, guess what? You're going to have to be the first. Like, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to wait for? Nothing's going to change. You're going to have to be the first.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
And that's what I'm hearing there. It's like, it's discernment and it's priorities, and it's just being clear on what you want and making choices that are in line with that.
Absolutely. And it's easy to go, it's okay for her, she's got this. It's okay for her, she's got this. So find a role model who's done it like the way you want to do it. And if you can't find one, be one. And just suck it up and do it, because what else is going to change your circumstances?
Exactly. And I love that, because it just leads into the next question we have, which is about dealing with comparison. So that's what they asked, was about being aware of what other people or your peers are earning. And I guess on a broader sense, their lifestyle, what it is they're doing, other aspects of their life, and comparing that, and how can you deal with that or avoid that?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, I think you have to have real discernment in who you follow as well. You have to be very careful that you're following someone who's walking their talk, who doesn't have a lot of drama behind the scenes, who is living the kind of lifestyle that you aspire to. I think that's very, very key, because otherwise, your circumstances might be different and all that kind of stuff. You want to role model somebody. Secondly, see that person not as competition, but as a sign that you can do it as well.
Yes.
And you have to just see it and go, wow, that's possible for me. Now, the person for me around that was Leonie Dawson.
Yes.
Because she's been in business a little bit longer than me. She's always a few steps ahead income-wise, and I'm always, like, trying to chase her. And what's funny, though, is I remember the first time she said, I did a 70K launch, and I was like, Mark, I was just like, come and look at this. Look at what she's done.
I remember the discussion in the B School group. I think that's what all the women in the group were doing. It's like, oh my God, gather around. Like, this is what's possible.
Yes. And I was like, could that be possible for me? And I've got goosebumps. I was like, instead of going, what a bitch, I can't believe she did that, or, oh my God, I'll never be able to do that, I was like, yes, I know her. If she can do it, I can do it. And do you know what? It wasn't long. It was only probably maybe 2 months until we had done similar, because I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. So that's really important. Discernment of who you follow, believing that it's possible for you. The third thing is to get rid of some of the noise. I think some people hate read other people's stuff. They're like, to torture themselves, and it's like, it's okay. You're allowed to unsubscribe from your competitors. You're allowed to unsubscribe from people who make you feel bad about yourself, and just curate what's coming in. You want to be around people who not only show you that it's possible, but tell you that it's possible for you as well.
Yes, that's just so key, isn't it? Now, the next question is about family stuff. We've got a couple of questions here about that. So the first one is how to detach from family money issues and do your own thing. So it's kind of like a more specific aspect. I know you're going to be great on this one. Another aspect of this is in like family debt patterns. This person said, how do you approach it if it feels like no matter what you do, for example, save, spend, receive, give, budget, etc., there is debt? And they were like, it's like a generational karma or something, what to do in the pattern of debt repeats of itself, and how do you clear the root cause and the root cause and the belief system underneath? Wow,
that's huge.
Big question.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I'm a big fan of kinesiology, as you know. I think that's huge. So the work that we do in the boot camp, I think it's very complemented by doing kinesiology and doing really deep dive work. So what we do in the boot camp is we come up with your origin stories. Where did you first learn that? And that, what you're talking about, the generational stuff, is one layer deeper, and that's very individual work that I think people need to do. For me, it was kinesiology. I did cord cutting of my ancestors. I very much did visualizations, and I have a cord cutting meditation actually, but I went back and I forgave them all. I was like, like, I forgive you for what you've learned and what you've passed down. And so forgiveness, cord cutting, kinesiology, I even did a past life regression. Like, I threw everything at it. I was like, I don't care. But then the next part, and this is really the most important, is the belief that you can break the cycle.
Yes.
Yeah, that it's okay for you to be different. It's okay for you to change and grow. And that's going to bring up a new set of fears, because people are like, well, who am I to break free from that? And who am I to be too big for my boots? And no one's going to like me if I have healthy money and they don't. Or everyone's going to ask me for money. So you have to actually deal with your stuff more than other people's stuff in that. And while you're in the work, you have to shield yourself from other people's money stuff, which means that maybe for just a couple of months while you're really in the money work, you don't hang out with them as much. Or you change the subject if it goes to money. You spend time with them in ways that means they can't trigger you. And you have to be super vigilant on that, right? That's not, oh, that person should change, that person should change. This is your responsibility to do, and you totally can. And one last thing to say on that is I grew up on a council estate. You know, all my family have been terrible with money. Terrible. I grew up seeing my grandma bailing out her 4 adult kids, because they couldn't afford to pay for Christmas because they spent all their money.
Wow.
And, you know, I get it. I get what that's like to have that generational patterns. But Mark and I, my husband and I, as soon as we got together, we would say to each other, we're building a new legacy. This is even learning about money stuff. We had no tools, we had no idea, but we were saying, we are breaking the cycle, new legacy for our family.
Yes.
If you start there, then the answers of how will become clearer.
I love that. It's like that, making that clear decision and just saying, I want this and this is how I want it to be for me. And then like you've touched on, it's that throwing everything at it and saying, just doing one thing, just having one kinesiology session or doing one, you know, round of forgiveness or one cord cutting, that's not probably going to be enough. You need to keep on going until it feels like it's really done for you, where you can really start to see the change, no matter how much that involves.
Yes, exactly. And it's lifelong work. So don't beat yourself up that you can't get it in 5 minutes.
Yes.
You know, I'm constantly working on it. I will work on it to the day I die, and I will spread the message till the day I die, that, you know, it's all down to us to do it. And we are stepping up as leaders, as feminine leaders around money. We're doing it in a different way. And it's our responsibility. We can't wait for someone else to give us permission to do it, right?
Yeah, and I love that reminder to be in your power. So what I'm hearing is it's not about the blame, or it's not about the reasons as to why I can't do what I want to do. It's just going, well, this is what I want, so I'm going to make it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is cool. The next question does lead on from that, and it's about boundary tips in relation to having a healthy relationship with money. So you've already talked about your grandma and with her children. But as we know, it can happen in so many different forms. This can be within your relationship, which we do see quite a lot in the boot camp. A lot of people talk about this. I went through this myself. Yeah. It can be from parent to child. It can be between siblings. So, you know, what can you do if people around you don't have great money habits and they're kind of putting it onto you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it starts with you.
Yeah.
So you have to see what it's bringing up for you in every situation. Always start there and say, what am I making this mean? So one thing right from the start when I started my business, I remember saying to Mark, this is a line drawn in the sand. I'm going full time in my business, no more like on the side or whatever. And I remember saying to him, give me 6 months, you know, no questions asked, like, let's cut back every finance thing, and, you know, give me 6 months, no pressure to make money in that 6 months. And within like 2 weeks, it was like, oh, so maybe you should get a job, like, you know, you haven't really made any money yet. So it's things like that are really difficult, I think, for women to deal with, because they feel so much pressure to contribute. And especially if you've been an independent woman for so long, then it can be really hard to have those conversations with your partner around money and worth. Another boundary for entrepreneurs I see is when they're starting their business, having boundaries around space to actually to do their business. So a lot of partners will say, oh, well, we'll only pay for childcare when your business is making money. And that's the total chicken and egg thing.
Yes.
Because how are you going to make money when you don't have any time for your business? So it's boundaries like that you have to say, no, I'm working. You know, we need to treat this as a business, as a job. And it can be really little things like, hey, babe, can you go pick up my dry cleaning? You're at home all day working on your business. And I had to start saying, I'm at work. Like, I can't.
Yes.
Go, oh, can you just do this? No, I'm at work, just like you are.
And what about where the boundary is that, you know, people are coming to you for money or asking for help or wanting your assistance and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
What do you recommend there?
Definitely a lot of people struggle with the freebie chasers.
Yes.
And that is so simple once you realise that it's okay. So the first thing is to deal with your own stuff. It's okay for me to not help everyone one-to-one. It's okay for me to send people to the answers themselves. Once you kind of get over, oh my God, I don't have to help every single person in the world, then you can say, with all integrity, you can say, hey, I wrote a blog post on that. Oh, hey, I can help you, book you with a session. And it sounds really simple. Obviously, when you're not strong in yourself, it can feel like you're being the biggest bitch in the world, telling people, no, I can't just tell you that and help you for free. And that just takes practice to do that. In terms of people asking you for money, again, the fear of it is worse than when it actually happens. So I find that a lot of women hold themselves back from even making money because of the fear of that will happen in the future. They're like, oh, what will I do when I'm a millionaire and people ask me for money? It's like, all right, just get your first client.
Yeah.
Deal with that problem in the future.
It's so true.
Sorry. It's like, but I remember I had that thing. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do when I'm so wealthy that people ask me for money? And I was like, oh my God, okay, what is that bringing up for me? Okay, a fear that it's not safe for me to make a lot of money. Oh, okay, I can deal with that. And then you just deal with the next thing.
Exactly.
So you always go for the emotion first
Yes.
rather than the situation, because you can deal with the situation later down the track.
And it sounds to me as well like that can be a bigger picture of it's not okay for me to say no.
Oh, absolutely. There is absolutely no accident that I call my business Lucky Bitch, because when I was less good at boundaries, my biggest fear was that people would think I was going to be a bitch. And I hear that a lot from women. They're like, oh, but people will think I'm a bitch if I don't help them. Oh, people will think I'm a bitch if I say no. And it's like, they really won't, but you have to deal with that fear first.
Yes, and just be okay with saying no, being okay with disappointing people. And that includes partner, family members, whether it's clients. It's about like having that healthy boundary for yourself around what's right for you and what you need, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's just this practice.
Yes, that's so true. All right, next question was about how to break through the yo-yo. For this person said they can have this amazing month, but then they can end up feeling exhausted and they need time out. And then, of course, their business responds to that by slowing down, and they would like it to be higher more consistently, and they put stuff on to help ease the load, but they still find their energy levels can only carry so far. So this kind of ties into what you said earlier about having the great launch and then sitting on the couch. So
yeah. So I always go back, what's the mindset lesson around this, right? The first thing that comes to mind, which is so common, is that women are uncomfortable with having excess. Because we've been taught from a very young age, if you've got extra, you should give it away. And it's even like, don't leave any food on your plate. So here's what I see entrepreneurs do. They don't give themselves any buffer. And so it's either all or nothing. And people, it's almost like they feel guilty about having extra money in their bank account at the end of the month. Or there's a belief that fuels that as well, that I have to be so close to the brink. That's the only thing that will make me hustle to work. And that's what creates these feast or famine things, and it just feeds on each other, right? And the third thing to say is sometimes that is a normal part of being an entrepreneur at the start, because you don't have momentum. So you're constantly, I have to hustle, because you don't have maybe a big list or you don't have passive income products. So some of that at the start is a very normal part of being an entrepreneur. that people don't get through because they start to like go, oh, I can't handle this is so stressful. And it's like, yeah, it's only at the start, don't worry. But as long as you deal with those mindset things, it's okay for me to have excess. It's okay for things to be done ahead of time. It's okay for things to be easy. It's okay for me to experience success. Because a lot of people get the success and they sabotage it.
Yes.
Right? Because they're like, oh, I don't know what I've done. And that's what creates that as well. Once you deal with all of those things, success can be very different. I mean, my business still has very high highs, but it doesn't have any low lows anymore. So it kind of just goes like this, whereas that is a very healthy baseline now for me.
Yes.
And I had to get used to that because that's what life was like as a kid as well for me. That was what life was like in my 20s. It was like we either had heaps of money and the fridge was full, or we had nothing. And it takes a while for you to get over that feast or famine and fight or flight response. You know, it takes a while for you to realize things can be a bit easy and it can be a bit chilled. It doesn't have to be.
Exactly. So, yeah, what I'm hearing there as well is like there can often be stuff to unpack from the past and looking at what you've kind of learned and what the cycles are and how you're used to being adrenalized or in that fight-flight response and how we can recreate that in so many different ways.
Yes, and the way that entrepreneurs create it to recreate it is that they refuse to get help.
Yes.
They reinvent the wheel all the time. They have shiny object syndrome. Mm-hmm. So there's no time for things to deepen and to ripen. And they are not consistent. Mm. So if you're not consistent in between those launches, you do have to hustle more.
Yes.
You know, because it's like, oh, I have to run and chase. And I think that that lesson for me was just it's okay for me to deepen down on something that I'm good at, you know, not to go, oh, well, I've done that once. Well, I'm going to kill that now. And that's what people do, right? Because the first time you create a program or a course, just doing all the tech and the sales page and all that kind of stuff is so much work. And then what I see entrepreneurs do is go, oh, well, everyone's seen that now. I can't launch that again. Yes, you can. But it's like, well, I only had 3 people join, so obviously no one wants it. I'll just start again from something else. That is a sabotage that creates some of those cycles.
Oh, yeah. I can totally hear what you're saying there. And I think as well, it sounds like it's about having like systems and structures in place so that you're not exhausting the limits of your energy constantly so that then you have to go into a recovery cycle as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So next question, it says, what's the fine line between pushing for something that's not meant to be versus working hard at something that is meant to be but just requires a bit more energy to get it over the line? And how can you tell the difference? I really like that question.
Wow. That is such a great question, and I think it comes with practice.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes, though, the answer is, I think you know the difference. You know it. I really do think you know it. And I think sometimes, though, we start to see signs and we go, oh, like as I said, someone refunded, it's not meant to happen. But if you've still got that fire in your belly of like, no, I'm going to make this happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And even if people don't like it or even if people refund, I still think about this and I still really want it to happen, then you can push through those normal resistance things. Some things are just little tests from the universe and it's just like, oh, that's a test, but I still want it. Whereas it's okay sometimes to go, you know what? There's so many obstacles. Actually, if I really check in with myself, I know I'm not meant to do this, or I know this is not the right step for me, or I don't even want it, really. You just have to check in with yourself and know the difference.
That's self-knowledge a lot, isn't it? And I think we can all tell, we can all feel if we've fixated on something because we think it's going to make us feel a certain way, or we think that we need to have it in a certain time frame. And, you know, we're so convinced, but it's not. We can tell, we can feel if we were honest that it doesn't have a relaxed feeling. It just has quite a level of intensity and pressure around it, which doesn't feel good.
Exactly, and I think for me that's been a lot of practice because I wouldn't say I'm a very intuitive person necessarily, but there's been times where I'm like, I knew, I just ignored it. You know, I did know, and I've done that recently, not so much in my business anymore, but in my personal life, where we bought a property that I had nibbles about, and so now, and we bought it, which was really really silly, and we ended up selling it like 6 weeks later because I woke up and went, no, I'm sorry I didn't say this 2 months ago, but this is not where we're going to live. So from that, I learned niggles mean no.
That is just gold, isn't it? Because sometimes we're feeling the niggles and we're like, oh, no, but, and we justify and we talk our way around. And I think that's such a sign. As soon as you're talking yourself around on something, pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to get resistance, but resistance has a different feeling.
Yes.
So, for example, if there's someone that you've been thinking about working with or in partnership or whatever, and each, like, they're sending you the contract and you're just like, I don't know about signing this right now, or I don't know about hitting that buy now button. You just got to trust that the niggles mean no. But if you're like, I'm so scared and excited, then that's a different feeling. That's just a bit of resistance and test from the universe. Do you really want this? Yeah. They feel very different.
It's a subtle quality, and it's like we said, it's that self-knowledge. Right, final question was, how do you receive with confidence and really feel and know and trust that you are adding value for your clients?
Oh, wow. Great question. Again, I think you know.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't, you have to do some inner work around that and go, it's okay for me to make money and help people. It's okay for me to not be the expert here, but to contribute. If you know that you're contributing to someone's life, you don't have to be the best of the best and the best of the best and be the guru of that thing, then that's okay. So, when people tell you that you help them, believe them. Don't second guess that. When you get off a session with a client, or you've finished a piece of work for a client, you feel good in yourself, receive it and be okay. I think we're all guilty of deflecting compliments and not letting ourselves sit with something before we go into the next thing, and just to go, well done. Instead we're like, well, I did this mistake and this mistake, it wasn't perfect, it could have been better, and let's move on to the next one. You have to stop it and let it anchor in and receive that. And they'll tell you as well.
That's right. Trusting that as well. And it reminds me of your mantra, I serve, I deserve. So I'm serving, I'm giving. Yes. So it's okay for me to receive from that.
Exactly. And you have to. It has to go like that. Otherwise, it's stagnant energy.
Yes, exactly. That's right. And you'll give and give and give, and you won't be receiving, and then that's never going to be sustainable anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. And just trust that. Trust that you're doing a great job, and you're here to do something amazing, and you're helping people, and that's okay. You're allowed to receive from that. Yeah,
that's it. So Denise, your life's work really is your money boot camp. So before we finish up, can you tell us a little bit about that, because something really exciting happening in the boot camp really soon?
Yes. So I started the boot camp in 2012 because all of my individual coaching clients were dealing with money blocks. And when I was a business coach, it was very strategic. We would say, okay, go do this and go do this and go do this. And they'd come back and they'd go, I didn't do it. And I was just like, well, what's going on? That's such an easy thing to do. What I realized was success in business, 80 to 90% of it's mindset. And the rest of it's just strategy and to-do lists, right? And we're all smart. We can all follow a to-do list. So what I realized, the key for women particularly was working around their money mindset and giving themselves permission to earn more money, including increasing their prices, feeling good about charging, for some people, completely, actually feeling good about charging people.
Full stop.
Yeah, exactly, full stop. Let alone charging premium rates or VIP offerings. So all the stuff that I was teaching my one-to-one clients, I put into a 6-week course. And since then, since 2012, we've had about 3,000 women go through that course. And the thing that I love about it is the same lessons are for everybody, no matter where you're at in business. If you're starting out and you've never made anything, the same lessons apply. But because it's such ongoing work, you will have people in there who have used those lessons to create 6-figure businesses and multiple 6-figure businesses, still coming back and doing the same work that beginners work on, because it just layers on. And each time you do the work, it's a new layer of your onion, of your money mindset onion. And so when I started the course, for the first 2 years, we did live rounds, which meant live Q&A. We did it all together as a group. And when I had my baby, we completely stopped that live version, and it just became an evergreen course, which people could join at any time, and people were working on different lessons all at the same time. This year, we are doing a live round again. So it's the first time in 3 years' time.
Wow.
I know, crazy. And I can't imagine doing it again for a while, if ever. I can't promise. So it's a real chance, if anyone has been thinking about working on money mindset, have been thinking about joining the boot camp, now is the perfect time to join, because we're going to do live calls, we're going to do competitions and quizzes and all sorts of fun stuff where 3,000 women are going to be having that momentum and doing it all together. So we do have an early bird price as well. We can save $500 off that live version by the 27th of October,
Great.
9 p.m. Eastern, which is actually the next day in Australia, depending on where you are time zone-wise. And Kerry will have an affiliate link for that as well, which Kerry's been in the boot camp obviously for a long time.
I've been in the boot camp a long time, and I'm one of those people who still goes back and uses all the lessons, and so much when I'm talking about money, so often I will always reference it back to things that I've learned with Denise, because it's not just in those 6 weeks of lessons, it's just the ongoing learning that you get from being in the community and learning from you as you go through your different stages, and from the community itself when you've got 3,000 savvy, successful, high achieving women who are all together, all working on their blocks, all working towards goals. There's so much richness in that.
Yeah, and it's really fun. It doesn't have to be heavy stuff. We're very light but deep with the work, which means it's not scary, it's fun, it's easy. You get a step-by-step plan of what to do, and it does go deep, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to cry every day and I have to wait for Mercury retrograde to be over to start, and we're going to, be confronted and have to do all sorts of scary things. It's not. It's light and easy, but it's necessary. It's very, very necessary work. So I really hope that you guys can join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for joining us and answering our questions. That was brilliant. And I'll see you in the boot camp.
Yay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.